Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Coffee Table Talk. You guys, I recently got some family pictures done for the first time, like professional with the whole group, and like the photographer was amazing. She got my kids to stand still long enough that they're not like blurry. You know what I mean? Like just these blurs of light flashing across. And they caught Josh actually smiling. I had it, I loved it so much I had it made into a
Oh, that rocks.
right? I was
Rocks.
like, it's my new favorite. It's my new favorite. I'm so excited. So very excited. So,
So, so
welcome.
when you're working with Jocelyn, do you just kind of hold up the mug and go?
I know. I'm like, remember your happy place? This is your happy place. Right here. That's it. Good morning, everybody that's joined us from LinkedIn so far this morning. So welcome to the Coffee Table Talk. If this is your first time, I'm Rachel Arnold, the Human API. Will McCullen is below me. Hi, Will. We have Chris Bonhorst and Jim. Jim doesn't need a last name. It's just Jim. I love Jim.
Good.
I love Jim. I love Jim. The InfoSec gifts that keep on giving. This is our last show for this year.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! What do you mean woohoo? I'm gonna
Well,
miss
that means
you.
it's Christmas. That means maybe actually time off. Maybe time to work on other projects from home.
Maybe. So I put a post out yesterday, bragging about the team that I was honored to join. Okay, and I understand there's a lot of stuff going on out there. There's a lot of headlines. There's a lot of all that stuff. I got to tell you, this is a happy little bubble. It's a happy little bubble of really great collaborative spirit and culture. And apparently that got some attention. So I went ahead and posted the links to all of the job postings and openings that we have currently open and available. There are going to be more next year. Just so you know, okay, that's the plan, is that there are going to be more. But these are the ones that I can share, and I wanted to get that out of the way. In case you showed up just for that, go there, go to my profile. I made a post. I even featured it. So if you scroll down, halfway down the LinkedIn bit, of my profile page, it'll be like the first one that you see as a featured post. Okay? Go there, click all the linky things. Have at it. Have at it. Okay? Because today I want to talk about all of the awesome and wonderful things that are going on at PIMA Community College, because these guys are really, really actually doing the damn thing. Okay? I don't know how else to say it. You're doing it. And it's been a long journey, right? Like, how long ago did you guys start trying to well, let's do introductions first. Everybody gets the idea of where you guys are right now and why we're all friends.
Well,
I'll start with
this
Will.
is near and dear to my heart, right? Obviously at PIMA. And before anything else, everybody needs to know I work with the most incredible group of individuals. And these two gentlemen that we're about to talk to today have a passion for education and like none other. I mean, these are incredible folks. Jim, we have the situation with myself, Chris, and Jim, and Chris and I have been friends for a long time, and then we have had this incredible opportunity to meet Jim Craig, who is the most incredible dean in the world. Jim, could you give us a little background for everybody?
Yeah, let me just get the makeup artist here to cover up my blushing face, and I can talk. So thank you, Will. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Craig. I'm the Dean of Business and Information Technology at PIMA Community College, and that covers a whole bunch of stuff, all the business programs, these 2 centers of excellence that we have under IT and cyber and hospitality leadership. But I'm just so excited to be here because of the work that we're doing. Working with these 2 incredible guys is a dream come true for me. And I've always had a passion for education, like Will said, but I've also spent most of my career in IT. So that's been my bread and butter. That's been my my passion and goal, and being able to do that from an educational standpoint is really a dream come true, because that's where the real things happen. That's where you make an impact on society. That's where you see students turn their lives around, and whole generations of families turning their lives around. So I'm just honored and humbled to be in this profession, and just love you guys and Rachel, and thank you for having me today.
My God, I'm always so honored whenever you come and hang out. By the way, if anybody wants to know, Jim gives the best hugs. Sorry, Will and Chris, but Jim gives the best hugs. Like, just the best. It was so great to finally come and see you guys late October and hang out. And that's something that I'm definitely going to be planning for us to do again next year, if that's okay with you.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'm also a hugger. I'm a hugger. So I would love to come hang out with you guys again. That was so fun. The Tucson area is gorgeous. If people do not know, now you know. It's really dry, though, like really dry. Okay, next time. And I live in Louisiana, all right? So I feel like I stepped out of a... So if anybody watches SpongeBob, there was an episode of SpongeBob where SpongeBob wants to go hang out with Sandy, which is the squirrel that, like, lives under the ocean. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to. It's a cartoon. So anyway, her house is like this is like this huge globe under the sea, on the sea floor, where there is air, because she's a squirrel, right? She's at home. She's comfortable. She doesn't want to have to wear her Aquaman suit all the time. So SpongeBob's like, I'm going to go visit Sandy's house. And when he goes, he doesn't realize that he is a sponge and needs water all the time. So he like completely dries up and is trying to hide it because he feels socially awkward, right? That he's so uncomfortable. He doesn't want to tell her that he's uncomfortable because he really wants her to like him. And I felt like that. That's what I felt like. I felt like, oh, hi, everybody. It's really hard to breathe. Can I get some water? Like, it was so lesson learned there. Anyhow, sorry for interjecting. Look, it's Chris Bonhorst.
And with that introduction, so Chris Bonhorst, I've been in IT for 26 some years now, all different parts of IT over the years. Pretty much every different position over that time. Recently, probably the last 3-4 years, getting into academics and trying to fix the issue that we saw with the education process in IT, and being able to both train and recruit people that have the skills to do the jobs. So that's been my passion and what we've been doing. I currently am the academic director for IT. So I manage the curriculum, faculty for our programming, cybersecurity, and system administration courses.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
That, in kind of how some of this came together, because this is where I get to have a fun time, right? Because I get to play host to these guys as well. So I'm kind of, anyhow. That brings up a really good point, because a large part of this started when we were really noticing some of the difficulties in education, right? What were some of the first things that caught your guys' eyes?
So I would say a lot of the students coming out, a lot of the people who were applying for jobs when I was running the data center, were things like they had the theory, they had the book knowledge, but trying to get that hands-on keyboard, they had just done simulations, that type of thing. A lack of critical thinking sometimes was pretty prevalent.
Yeah, same with me. I mean, I've been a hiring manager in IT for decades, and I would always notice the same thing. A fresh graduate out of a university, for instance, let alone a community college, just wouldn't know how to do the job. They They had some theory, they had a background, but they didn't know how to do the job. So you're literally starting at scratch, training from day one, not hitting the ground running, but wow, this is going to be a 6-month training effort before we get productivity out of this person.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it started off where we were having lunch, Chris, you and I all the time too, where you were trying to hire, right?
Yep. Entry-level Linux admins. Trying to hire entry-level Linux admin was next to impossible because I couldn't hire them from any university. And, a lot of educational requirements for HR and stuff like that are requiring bachelor's, master's degrees, things like that. And they just didn't have the experience. So if they had the experience, they didn't have the education. If they had the education, they didn't have the experience. So it was really difficult to find somebody.
Yeah, it's like being between a rock and a hard place, right? I always
Yep.
thought it was funny whenever, because I don't know about everybody else, but my parents were like, if you want a car when you turn 16 to be able to drive, you need to get a job so that you can go buy that car. Okay, here's my problem. To go get a job, I need a car to get there so that I can get the job to buy the car.
Right.
Right. So it's the same thing that happens here, right? To get the job, you need the certs and the education to get the experience that you need to get the job. Like it's
Yeah.
it's this horrible
It's
circle.
a really bad catch-22 for sure.
Yeah.
So bad. So
Yeah.
that's whenever I first met Will last year. By the way, Will, do you remember the very first episode of the Coffee Table Talks where we talked about open source?
I remember I think the very first one is when we were talking about this program, right?
It was. One of them was talking about, that was the first one that I got introduced to you to. And then we brought Jim on and we were all weirdly very huge and side by side because, right? Because Rachel only tests in production. So anyway, it was the one where we were talking with Cytisis and Evan Franson. And we were talking about open source stuff and talking about how repositories and libraries are not maintained as well as we would hope. And then, right, I was like, wow, we're wizards. We were predicting the future. Log4j. I was like, go us. So you never know. So you know what does happen here is, stuff like that, kind of having those kind of discussions that seem to be clairvoyant. That's what I feel like you guys are. I think you guys are so far ahead of the game. You're doing it, and we're like over here trying to shout from a mountaintop, and nobody's going to notice it until later, right?
Yeah, sometimes it feels like that, but it wasn't just the bad experiences that Will and Chris and I have had in industry. We pulled about 120 industry professionals in a room together several years ago. This was back in 2018, and we asked them the same question. And now we were in academics, not part of industry, and they just slapped us silly. They said, "Yeah, this is, we can't." We can't hire the people from your college, from your community college, or from the universities. Nobody's coming out prepared.
Right.
And that's when we really had to dig in and dig down and say, we need to change this. We need to fundamentally change how we teach IT.
Yeah.
And that's how it got started.
I love it because you know how hard it is for people to, so it's easy for everybody to stop and point out a problem, right? It's easy. It's easy to sit there and complain. This is horrible and this is the way it is and somebody should do something about it and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? But for somebody to actually stand up and put in the work, like, really? To actually just stand up and go, wait, I can change this. I can fix this. Well, I might need some help, but I can do this, right? Why are you waiting on somebody else to make a positive impact in whatever it is that you find abhorrent at the moment? Don't wait on anybody else. Look at these guys. They were like, this is going to be hard and it's going to be long, but oh man, we got to do something and stand up and do something. That is round of applause, okay? Because everybody else just goes by the car crash, right? Nobody actually stops and like sees if everybody's okay.
Well, it was fascinating because we had businesses coming through. Everything. Like, cool thing is in Tucson, we have places like Raytheon, IBM. We have Tech Data up the street. We have a whole lot of small business that is heavily needing help. All sorts of different types of industry, and they would come together and they would say, it's really difficult when we have students coming out of your programs that have had a lot of nice theory, but when you try to put them onto a project, when you try to put them into play, now as a business, we have to completely train them in a whole bunch of elements, right? And that's what helped bring together some of the curriculum, right?
Yeah, and we had to go back and look kind of why the traditional education wasn't working too. We couldn't just say, oh, it's not working, let's do something different. So we had to actually go back and look at what's not working about the way education has traditionally been the same way for, more than a few years, we'll say. Right?
Like Middle Ages, right?
Yeah. So things like, just super high level example, you take a course on Windows or on Cisco or on, CompTIA Plus or, whatever it is, you learn a thing, a technology. And then you finish that course and you go to another course and you learn a technology. And nowhere are you merging that together and seeing how these things fit, because that's where that critical thinking component comes in. Otherwise, you're just following documentation, or something like that. So you had these silos that we had to figure out how to break down those silos in the curriculum so that students could get that broad experience.
Well, you're still fighting that, right, Chris?
Oh yeah.
Well, the other problem with education overall is that there's a lot of constraints in place, right? We're an regionally accredited community college, universities all regionally accredited. There's a whole bunch of rules in place that you have to comply with if you want to give students financial aid, if you want to even have a college, right? You have to have student outcomes. You have to show how you assess to those outcomes. You have to have all these things in place. And many times making changes to those things takes a very long time because you have to go through your accreditor, you have to go through the Department of Education. Yep. Making a 25% change in a curriculum could take over a year if you're lucky. And so it's very easy for universities and colleges to just stick with a textbook and not explore these other areas that we've done and not do the hard work of making things more relevant and more real time, and really to try to give students that hands-on training and that critical thinking and that creativity and the ability to really learn what the job is like by doing hands-on themselves, to really figure out what that theory means by applying it, by integrating it real time into a multi-dimensional environment, not in a classroom and not in a simulated lab in a classroom.
Well, what do you mean by outcomes?
Well, every course that we or any college or university has to define student learning outcomes. The student is going to learn this. They're going to be competent in this. They're going to know how to do this. And those outcomes are scrutinized and approved and vetted in about a dozen different ways.
I think I broke the chat whenever I disconnected and re-jumped in. So, because we're missing some questions here from the side that I think you guys could really help out with. Let's see. People are memorizing. Okay. I think the problem is also trying. Matthew Perry says, not that Matthew Perry. Anybody else? Is that just me? Not that one. This one's probably cooler. I think the problem is also trying to just learn to pass a test, right?
Right.
So
Correct.
that's something I struggle with as a
No.
neurodivergent person is I can't do that. I can't do standardized learning at all. So
Right.
that's why I got so excited whenever Will first told me about what you guys had done, is I was like, finally, I cried a little because I was like, I needed this so bad for so
Yeah.
long, so long. Anyway.
Because the problem is the tests, the certifications, many of them, there's a few outliers, obviously, but it's a bubble choice, fill in the blank. They don't really address if you can do it. They addressed whether you memorized it or not.
Right.
So just because you pass the test doesn't mean you can do the job. And
Right.
that's what we're running
Yeah.
into.
Well, also the whole process of when you take outcomes and you reduce it down to knowledge units, right? What you're doing is you're just taking a catalog and a metric of all these knowledge factoids that you've learned, which is not necessarily an application of those.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right. And then the other problem, of course, is again back to the issue with traditional education is that institutions are bound by and motivated by passing students. Failure is not an option in the classroom. That's considered a bad thing. Bad for the student, bad for the college, bad for everybody. But if we can set up a center of excellence that embraces failure, that encourages failure, that encourages that critical thinking and creativity that can only come from bumping your head up against it, not once, but maybe 20 times before the light bulb goes off. That's the real value of education. That's the real beauty of wrapping that around a traditional educational model.
Yeah. And what I noticed is that like it's almost like the students go and they sit down and they do the traditional learning style in the classroom part, but then they immediately have access to go put that fresh knowledge to practice right away because you guys have the facility and the mentors and the equipment and all the stuff there. So if they learn a concept in sitting in a classroom environment, they immediately have like this lab to go play in, which is so cool. And then it's also a partnership with the Arizona
Cyber Warfare Range.
Cyber Warfare Range. Right. So you guys, not only do they have, the ability to gain hands-on, to understand fully concepts that they're learning immediately before they forget what they just memorized, right? Which then takes it from that short-term memory of memorization to the long-term applied knowledge that they are now practicing with immediately. Right. So that is so cool. And that goes all the way to the basics. I see Daniel S. asked, is it possible, please demonstrate how PIMA can teach the basics of cybersecurity? Because let's face it, a lot of issues in the real world come down to not having fundamental grasp on the basics. Well said, sir. Thank you. Well said, sir. Okay. Whenever I stumbled across how different applications were put together and then realized all these building blocks were coming from open source code. And like, that's a fundamental understanding of how something is built. And then because I'm cybersecurity minded, I was like, wait, how do they make sure that all of that is like monitored for changes and updates? Like, who's doing that? And everybody was like, well, I don't know.
And there's your answer.
I don't know. That screen name over there, I have no idea. I have no idea. Right? So that confused me as a person. I was very confused. So I grabbed Will and Evan and Cytisis. Right? And we sat down and we did a live stream. And that's how it started. Okay? Because I was like, you know what? I can't be the only one. Maybe I am. And I don't care if I look stupid. So but it's the fundamental stuff, right? That now has screwed up so many people's holiday season. Go hug somebody in IT, you guys. Okay, they need to, ask permission first. That's important. Consent matters. If they say it's okay, squeeze them tight. Buy them coffee. Do something nice. Okay.
It's always okay to hug you, Rachel.
It is. Well, no, you still have to ask permission. There's some people I'm like, I'm not sure. You might be friend shaped, but you are not friendly. Yeah. Like, not 100% on that. Consent
But
is
it's a really good point of teaching them
Yeah.
fundamentals. That's why, we teach ethical hacking right away, right? So students get that theory, they get the fundamentals, but then when they walk into the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range, that's the time to play. That's the time to experiment. That's the time to learn how to hack things
Yep.
so that you can better protect them later. And that's the time to learn how to think like the enemy. Think
Yep.
like a hacker that's trying to break into your business. And that's exactly where that disruptive learning model comes to bear, and theory starts to get pulled in to real life situations. And if I could say it, I'll be totally honest. One of the main reasons we didn't start off with $500,000 cybersecurity simulations is that we couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
We're just this little community college. Well, we're about the 6th biggest in the country, but we're just this community college, and we can't buy that. We
You're
can't
just so,
buy that.
Right.
So how
you're
are we
so
going
humble, Jim.
Yeah. But
We're just this little community. I mean, the 6th biggest in the whole country. College. We can't.
Yeah. So instead of building and buying these simulated labs, in working with Brett Scott and the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range, how about if we just do it live? How about if we just expose students to live viruses and live ransomware, and the last thing that came off the dark web, and the last thing that just infected this industry and took them for $20 million? Why don't we just work with that stuff? Because it's already out there, and frankly, it's free.
Yes, it is. One of my favorite people that are putting questions in the chat here, Daniel again. How do these courses differ from the free alternatives out there?
So that's a great question, actually, and there's some great free resources out there, and I recommend people look at YouTube and all that free stuff all the time. A lot of them are online and virtual, though. You get the theory. You maybe get a simulation lab where you can, drag the Ethernet into the port on the back of the server virtually. It's not the same thing.
For me, it's not. I have to actually touch the things.
Right. So we do have, some traditional curriculum where, you have to teach those basics, going back to what somebody else said earlier. You've got to get those network basics in. So yeah, there are labs, there are things like that to cover the basic material. But then when you go, you know what, I understand wireless, but I want to understand how a man-in-the-middle attack works. I want to, like what Will did the other day, you know what, everybody in the lab, put your IP addresses up, okay? Everybody take each other out. I want you to DDoS each other, figure it out. And you actually do that in the classroom on the network. Now, most networks, your IT people will come down with a large stick and prevent you from doing that again. But we built our environment for students to be able to do that. You can, learn it in the classroom, then walk into the range and set up an evil twin attack. You can go and, all of a sudden set up, 50,000 SSIDs and start broadcasting them and seeing what happens. And that's where that extra layer of learning happens beyond what you learn with the YouTube or the free stuff.
And we're not saying, look, I learned a lot of stuff from Professor Messer, okay?
We're not saying
that that's not, they should just throw that out and do this. No, this is just another way, right? It just seems like so far the path has been the way it was, right? And this is different. And if we're trying to be more inclusive and diverse and invite more people to join the InfoSec industry, we need more ways for them to get there, because people are individuals that don't all learn the same way.
And I'm going to take it back out of IT even. How do we teach nurses and even auto mechanics and doctors?
They get hands-on.
Right. They're watching reading medical journals. They're watching videos. They're doing trainings. But guess what? They got on-the-job training. Would you want your doctor or your nurse to never have touched a patient before?
Right.
No.
Or never
So,
seen it done, or
you know,
yeah.
Right.
other industries figured it out years ago.
Yeah. And it's
We're
not
just
just
slow.
it's not just the wild, wild west too. I mean, we've got the live fire cyber warfare range, and that's an incredible disruptive learning environment. But we also have something called a student-run data center, and that is such an
So-
innovative, unique concept. Chris, why don't you talk a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, so there was a question earlier in the chat about internships. And so I used to run the data center for the college before I got into academics, actually. And we tried to bring on some interns and some student workers and even volunteers. Here's the problem. If I bring them into my production data center student intern, you know, there's lots of stories in the news recently about interns, right? We're not going to go down that road. But they, I couldn't give them production access to Active Directory or to our Oracle databases. You know, we got Social Security numbers and credit card. Well, no, not credit cards, but Social Security numbers, all sorts of information in there, right? And that's a problem we're hearing from a lot of our business partners is, yeah, we'd love to have interns, but, you know, we can have them setting up printers or doing parking duty, which is not helpful. So what we finally figured out, we needed to build our own data center. So we built a production data center. It actually runs our Center for Excellence. So it runs the classroom that Will's in right now is all managed by students, run out of the data center on the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
So when students are looking at firewall logs and things like that, they're actually looking at the firewall that's getting hit live.
Yeah.
But what it allowed us to do is we could keep all PII out of that environment.
Yeah.
Now we have students with domain admin rights, with root access onto our VMware cluster, things that you would never dream of doing.
Yeah.
And do we know we're going to have security issues? Yes. Are we going to have systems go down? Yes. That's part of the learning experience, and we've designed it that way.
Oh, I have to inject. For those that are in the IT industry or in the operational side and going to become academics, right? We have this interesting situation because Chris and I were both working heavily in the data centers and the whole thing is about keeping everything strong, safe, and constantly functioning, right? And so when you're working with a student and that student is saying, okay, I went through, this looks good. How about if I click this? We have to fight our internal instinct of, yeah, go ahead, give it a go. And watch it blow up, right?
I can't imagine. I feel like, and I do not want to, like, I'm not trying to be demeaning to the students in the center, okay? But I can see very quickly as the mom of 3 small children where I'm like, I want them to be able to learn that if they jump on the couch and fall, it's gonna hurt, but I also don't want them to get hurt. Right? So it's
Right.
that like what do you call it? It's like guided, I don't know, whatever. I always call it, you know, watching the crash happen and making sure it's not too bad, but kind of thing.
Well, it goes back to what Jim said earlier. You know, when you fail, that's when you learn the best. Right. I think when you've tried something multiple times. That student Will was just talking about, I think that was his 6th time rebuilding vCenter from scratch over a several week period. And you know, that was the last time, fortunately, but he had learned a lot in that time.
Yeah.
And now he's not going to do it when he gets on the workforce. He's more careful, you know, understands the difference between production and stage.
Right. So to answer that question about the internships too, think about that. We have all these internal internships that students in the community can come in and be part of, and they can put that on their resume, and they can have that be part of their interview process. Where, well, what cybersecurity experience have you had? And you can say, well, I've had a lot. Let me tell you about the other day when I got woken up at 3 a.m. and I had to go redo a server that got infected that ran the classroom at PIMA Community College. That's a great opener for a job interview, even if you don't have any paid experience out in industry yet.
Yeah.
And Danny had a question I want to make sure I address there. She said I was talking about adult interns who are already working but would like
Found
to
it.
move into security.
That one.
That's an important one because there's a lot of people in that scenario. We have so many returning adults. And that's why we have evening classes. Actually, majority are evening because people work during the day.
Yeah.
With that being said, though, there's
It's
more
a community college, so I'm
yeah,
just saying.
there's more experience than you can get than just a formal internship too. That's one of the huge benefits of the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range is you don't have to be a student. You can be somebody in the community that can come in, and there's tons of projects to work in there on your own or with a team. We just got some brand new Cisco Nexus switches and all sorts of stuff to set up, and it's just come on in and start a project.
So
And
how
that's also
often?
why that's also why, like in the live fire cyber warfare range, we have a sign up that says "Leave your ego at the door," because we get the fact that there's people that might still be working in IT, have been in it for years, but really don't know anything about cybersecurity, and they're afraid to admit it because they don't want to lose their job. They're afraid to admit it because they're supposed to already know that somehow magically, but they can come into the range and they can openly admit, I don't know anything about SQL injection. What the heck is that? I mean, and people are going to work with them, and they're going to be able to learn in a safe, trusted environment where it doesn't matter what you know, it doesn't matter how much experience you have. Just come and learn and learn with each other.
Oh, and if you think we know it all, no.
No one person can do that. That's why it takes the village. Okay, that's why it's important that whenever it is safe, I want to make that clear. When it is safe and you feel comfortable going to conferences or going to places like did you know you can walk into the cyber warfare range at PIMA? Like, I mean, tell them you're coming, right? Or maybe not first. I don't know, but you can go. You don't have to be a student, do you? You don't have to be a
No.
student, right?
It's
Still,
open to the public. It's open to the public free of charge.
yeah, you just walk in and nose around a little bit, right? I mean, they're gonna watch you. Like, don't just put stuff into stuff, but like, right? You can go and ask questions and be nosy and do things. It's super fun. Like Brett can confirm. So I want to ask something too. Like, I know that whenever you first got the idea for this, that you guys met with some industry professionals and asked them what the gap was and got their feedback, right? Because you're not just blazing a trail, not asking anybody for what direction to go in. Do you still do that? Are there still, like, because the industry changes so much, right?
Yeah.
Is there like a quarterly, I don't know, whatever? Is there something?
Yeah.
Do they come by and hang out every day? Is it once a year? Like, I don't know.
So a little bit of everything, actually. So we do have our formal advisory committee.
Cool.
And they meet once a semester, so twice a year.
And what kind of industries do they come from?
Oh, everything from small business to managed service providers to your IBMs, your Raytheons, to your utility companies, mining companies, construction. They're
So you guys
not
got good friends.
strictly IT. They're broad range because Tucson has a large small business population. Plus, we have some big industry.
Yeah.
And also, Rachel, we hold all this very lightly. So what we've started, what we've built, we're not committed to keeping it. It can change immediately if it needs to. We're facilitators of this. We don't own it. We're just trying to create the best environment for the community, for our students, and it can change on a dime, and we're okay with that. We've invested in the passion of education and the passion of transforming the community, and in the passion, frankly, of protecting this nation from its enemies, and that's what we're committed to. So whatever that needs to look like, however it needs to change, however quickly it needs to change, is perfectly okay with us.
Yeah. I think being open to change and new ideas keeps something always on the edge and transforming and being of value to a greater audience, right? It's when you get stuck and you're like, this is the way it is because we said so. Then you're like, but why though? It's always like uh, um, it happens in more than one movie where there's some king and like the prince is like, I don't want to marry a princess. And they're like, well, this is how it's done. And they're like, well, you're the king though. Like,
Yeah. And what
can't
that does,
you change the law? Like, if you can't, who can? Like,
right. And that completely stifles any creativity and and creativity is really what we need in my mind. Because when you're trying to solve a problem, I mean, that's critical thinking, finding solutions that are not the norm. And to do that, you have to think outside the box. And if you can't, you need to talk to others and be able to communicate with others and do all that. So that's why we try and do project teams and things like that.
we do. I mean, the adversaries are very creative, right? Nobody's telling them you can't do it that way. That's why they're so adversarial.
Frankly, we're outnumbered by adversaries, so we need to be creative.
And the adversaries are working in teams that aren't just IT, right? They're working with accounting teams and HR teams and legal teams. And so that's why our Fusion Center, we try to pull in students in the community from all those other disciplines and really have the job of educating ourselves and learning more about IT and cybersecurity be a complete holistic picture and with everybody involved in the organization. So if it's a hospital, it's not just the IT professionals working in the hospital, it's the nursing staff, it's the people that are touching those dozens of IoT and Wi-Fi equipment, needing to be able to understand how vulnerable they are and what they can do as a practitioner to help protect their hospital too.
And vice versa, the IT working in that environment need to understand how that equipment's used. So when remediation time happens and all of those, they know what are the possibilities, what's the impact.
Yeah.
Who's it going to affect?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the huge, one of the huge goals that we would like to get to is, and it's already starting, is to be a concept of where we break down the student teacher model and it becomes more of peers working together to gain the tools, the knowledge, the experience that you need to be able to do and be able to return and come back and constantly update throughout.
That goes back to the show we had, like 2-3 weeks ago with Alexis, where she was talking about it doesn't matter where you are in your organization or in your learning path, you can be a leader, right? We were talking about leadership and how don't wait for somebody else to stand up. You're going to be waiting forever. Just stand up, take ownership of your own career path, of your own learning, and charge ahead and grab more people with you that look like they're going to be fun to learn stuff with. Like, just grab them. It's okay. They'll be fine. If they don't want to stick with you, they'll just go walk off. Don't chase them. Just, because that's aggressive. But like, just take people with you. It's so fun. It's great out here in the real world when you realize your power as an adult.
Right.
And
I like Rich's comment. Been doing this for over 50 years, and each day there's a growing amount of stuff I don't understand. That's so true. To Will's point, that's so true with our faculty. When our faculty want to do professional development in the future, what we're going to tell them is, "Oh, good, you need to go do this project with the students. You're going to learn a lot," because it's really that way. Faculty are going to learn from students in ways that they never dreamed possible before.
And look, Rich saying over 50 years doing this stuff, he was the reason why I decided I wanted to figure out how to live stream conversations. Okay. I got a hold of Rich and I was in like a reselling as a reseller with Secure Nation, and I wanted to make a friend and do, and eventually maybe do some business. And he was like, well, I'm about to retire. And I was like, oh, that's okay though. So tell me about your career since you're about to retire. And he was like, in Vietnam. And I was like, all right, hold the phone. Hold the phone. And he started telling me, and I pulled Josh in. I was like, Josh, listen to this. Like, I pulled Josh in, and he's like talking about doing signal intelligence and radio intelligence in Vietnam. And I'm like, holy cow, man. He's like, yeah. And then when I got back, I went and worked for NASA for a while. I was like, wait a minute. This is amazing. This is amazing. That man is like, I've been doing this for over 50 years, and each day there's a growing amount of stuff I don't understand. Okay? Nobody's an expert. All right? Rich been doing it since Vietnam. Okay? Legit. Sorry.
And that's a key thing to pick up on. Our student club is incredible. They are fantastic. Well, we had them on one of the coffee talks, right? And they have a Discord that is going really strong, and they're bringing in professionals. They have Laura Chappell is on. Yeah, you're on there. Laura Chappell, who is working with Vince Cerf on interplanetary networking elements, is on the student Discord. I mean, it's just like, this is blowing my mind.
We're here.
But it's something where if folks can take initiative, and if we can build a safe place where they can explore, grow, and challenge the norms, why not? I mean, Rachel, you basically could do a whole master class on taking initiative and running with it and saying, why not? Let's give it a whirl. Let's go.
Sometimes I think I'm just too stupid to be afraid. Really.
Yeah, hey, sometimes that helps. Sometimes that helps. Yeah.
It's really aggressive optimism at its best.
For me,
okay?
Yeah.
I am over caffeinated and aggressively optimistic 90% of the time. Okay. Like, I have yeah. I don't know. Somebody asked me that once. They're like, oh, you're so brave and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I just don't have enough wherewithal to be afraid. I'm like, is this dangerous? Nah, it's fine. Let's keep going.
We have Steve Shively on here with one of our student users. Woohoo!
The PIMA super users, hack it at PIMA. That was a t-shirt design that you guys had, right? You can hack it at PIMA.
Yeah, Chris is wearing one.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Beautiful.
It kind of ties in, but I saw a chat message scroll by from Albert that he said, I'll always ask you, what did you learn today to increase your knowledge?
That one?
Yeah. One of the things when people are getting into IT that we really try to drive home is that this is a treadmill that you need to learn forever, which is where things like the range come in, because even after you're in industry, come back, there's something else every day.
Yeah.
But this goes back to our first conversation that we had today about the problems with education, is we teach Windows or whatever technology it is, but we all know in 5 years, that technology, way less than 5 years, that technology has changed. So what we need to be focusing on is teaching students how to learn technology.
Yep.
Using the tools that we have today. So yeah, I liked what he said there. I think that.
Yeah, that was perfect. Yeah. You should be continually learning. Learn something new every day. Every day.
And if you're having fun doing it, if it's not some boring classroom that you're sitting there listening to some person lecture and show PowerPoints, but you're actually gathered around 5 other people and you're going, how do we make this work? I don't know. Let's try some things. I mean, that's such a different learning experience. And it's one that's so much more meaningful and so much more powerful. And that's what we're trying to bring to the students and to the community, is that kind of experience over and over again, so that it's not a curriculum, it's not a degree I have to get through. It's really fun. It's something I think I might want to do the rest of my life because I'm having a great time here.
Yep.
Yeah. And if I need help, if I need support, if I need folks to bounce things off of, I can collaborate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We
It's
need
always
that.
it's
Yeah,
always good.
you don't learn how to be a good collaborator by studying collaboration theories and writing a paper on it. I'm sorry. That doesn't work.
Hang on. Some people do. Okay. We have to appreciate all the different learning styles, Jim. Okay. And we can have opinions about which ones are better. But appreciate, right? Not everybody likes country music, but it's still music. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's always great hanging out with you guys. If you guys want to go hang out with Jim, Chris, and Will, and all of the amazing students at PIMA Community College, guess what? You're already invited. Come say hi. Come say hi. Go hang out with them. Everybody's also on LinkedIn, so grab their first and last names, and you'll see their shining faces, and you can grab them there. They're also tagged in all of the posts about this live stream today. That's it for 2021. We made it. We made it. We're here. It's fantastic. I'm really tired. Are you guys tired?
No, let's go. Let's go.
I'm so tired.
I've had more coffee than you have, though, so that's okay.
I mean, I'm at the point in my life where it's almost intravenously fed. Okay. Like, I'm just going to start walking around.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start walking around with one of those poles and, like, 100% Colombian dripping the whole time. That's going to be it. I see it coming. Man, I think we did okay for this year. Not bad. I'm looking forward to next year. We've got more fabulous people coming because, but they got you guys set a hard bar on the year finale, because I don't know if they get much cooler than you.
Oh, this was so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Definitely. So I'm going to give you all room to do some closing thoughts. We'll let Jim go first.
Okay. Well, I think it should be a learning experience for all of us, IT, cybersecurity, and just keep that attitude of being open to learning, being open to not knowing things. And as long as we can keep that attitude for each and every one of us, I think we'll do so much better as a country in terms of securing our assets and having a productive workplace and a fantastic working environment. And I just encourage everybody to do that for themselves and to do that for your coworkers and your collaborators and your partners. It's the more we can have that attitude of holding things lightly and being open to learning, the better off we'll all be. And thanks for the opportunity to share this today.
Oh, yeah. Anytime, man. You guys are always welcome. Chris, I'm going to pass it off to you, man. You're going to be on Spotlight. You ready? Here you go. Woo!
Yeah. So we talked about adult learners and things like that a lot today, but the pipeline we need to build to really build up a good, strong cybersecurity workforce really needs to start earlier. We're working with middle schoolers and above. I actually did a intro to cybersecurity for some kindergartners, which was really interesting. Really interesting. But I would say, as an industry, if everybody on this call and everybody reaches out to those that may not even be interested in IT, it can be intimidating for people coming into the field. But if they know somebody, if they've got a mentor, if they have somebody to talk to about it, we can really build up that pipeline and make progress on, securing this country, which has desperately needed, because we're outnumbered. We have laws that are against us compared to other countries. We've got a lot of things going against us, but we've got that creativity. We've got the knowledge. We just need the people out there doing the work.
Definitely. Definitely agree. Will?
Yeah. And some of the stuff, this has been such an awesome opportunity because there's a lot coming together. We have elements with the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range. We're about to start up from them international feeds of threat analysis in this room so that when students are here doing work, they are helping to save the nation at the same time. Why not? Right? This is a situation of if we can take the knowledge and the skills that we teach and immediately turn those into not being facts that you need to be able to regurgitate for a test, but turn them into tools and resources that you need to have to be able to accomplish whatever you're doing, it becomes a whole different ballgame. And this can be done across this country and should. And if we do that, we can change the industry, we can change the economy. Imagine if we were able to bring IT up to a level where the simple mistakes were no longer there. How much money would we be able to turn back into the economy if it wasn't flying out the door? Right? There's so many possibilities. We need to think about this differently. Standard education needs a boost. We need to turn it into the practical. That's kind of a summation of my thoughts on that. And
I completely agree.
I'm just so blessed to be part of this team and working with these guys. It's incredible.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, if you would give a piece of technology to your child, and let's face it, most of us do, including I give technology to my children all the time, because they get really loud and I just want to cook dinner. I'm sorry, I do. I know, failure. But I also teach them about what they're using at the same time and monitor that, right? Why I think I 100% agree that we should reach out at a younger age, right? And there are programs that are there. I've talked to a couple of people from like Tech for Girls, which actually aims to, bring young women and girls from middle school age into technology. My son, a couple of weeks ago, they had a coding project. Roblox, you guys, okay, and Minecraft are teaching some fundamental skills that can be developed and explored and more learned about it. And if you want to talk about, have you ever heard people say the best time to learn a second language is when you're at a young age? Speaking IT and cybersecurity, it's a language and we've got a lot of different variations, okay? So, just saying. And you're right, we do need to build that pipeline because we're moving away from a country that was where the workforce needed to be developed for these factory jobs, right? We're not doing that anymore. It's just not there. We've outsourced it. Right? It's gone. We're paying other countries to do that sort of task-oriented work. But our school system is still set up to train young workforce people to do task-oriented work like that and not really to think outside the box, right? At least the public school systems, the ones here are. You might be different in your area, and I'm really excited for you. Okay, but it's not that way everywhere. But they're not teaching hands-on stuff and collaboration and how to think outside the box and standardized tests are standardized, and for somebody who grew up undiagnosed ADHD as a small kid and didn't understand why everything was so challenging and hard and why I couldn't learn until I started getting hands-on learning and started playing and practicing and stuff like that. Then I met Will and realized that he was also doing that. And I was like, well, I needed this the whole time. That could have been so great. I would have been in a different place, but also so grateful that I did meet you at all. So, no regrets, man. I am so excited for the way that in the direction that higher education is moving as to the example of the wonderful folks over at PIMA Community College. Thank you guys so much for helping me close out an amazing year. of doing live streams. Thanks to everybody that comes and hangs out in the chat. Discussions are always welcome and lovely, and I love questions and answering them, even the hard ones. So yes, do it. Take a break. Go hang out with your families. It's the holidays, man. We'll see you all next year.
Yeah.
Love
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Take care.
Love you all. We'll see you. I'll see you in 2022, man.
Woohoo!
Yay.
Bye, everybody.